being the first chat of series of talks that we're gonna have, and did you guys get the email? They had like each week on there, like all the different talks we're gonna do and stuff. So this week we're not gonna get too in depth with each one of these, because like each week we'll kind of go through each one of those. But the 6 main things that we are tracking for this challenge. So your water, your protein, both of those are that number that's the fat-free mass from your BIA, okay? Your fruit and veggies, that is going to be 4 times what your BIA is, right? So if it was 100 for these, it'd be 400 for the fruit and veggies, okay? CrossFit, 5 times a week. If you're doing other forms of fitness, like I know there's a couple people doing this challenge who are also doing barbell club, so we talked about some of those days being able to count for your like workouts for the week. If you have stuff like that and you want to chat and see like how many would count and stuff, we can talk about that. Being in bed / sleeping for like 6.5 to 7 hours. That is, you know, ideally if you are in bed for longer than that, totally fine. This is 6.5 to 7 hours of like making an effort to be sleeping. So not like I got in bed with 7 hours to go and then I was like on my phone for 2 hours, I was like scrolling, you know. This is making an effort to be sleeping, okay? And then 8,000 steps per day, that's an average per day. So if you get 16,000 steps one day, that would then be, right, like 8,000 for the 2 days. So it doesn't have to be exactly 8,000 each day. On your tracker sheet, you can either write the amount of, like the exact amount you did each day, or if you want to just check that you know you're averaging 8,000, you can do it that way too, okay? So questions on the things that we are tracking? Feel pretty good about that? How'd this first week go? Good?
Good.
Crushed it? Okay. So I figured I'd just go over a couple tracking tips, things to help kind of make it easier. So I definitely recommend using an app to track things. It's going to be easier to do it that way. I personally use MyFitnessPal. There's a free version of it or a pay version. The free version is totally fine, especially for what we're doing. There's another app like Chronometer, that's a really good one. I think there's one just called like Macro Counter or something like that. So there's a couple different apps to use, but I highly recommend using it. It just makes it a lot easier to keep track of everything, okay? Planning ahead, I'm a big fan of either the night before or morning of, I'll plug in all of my food for that day. And now mind you, like the main foods that we're tracking are protein and veggies, so you don't necessarily have to put in every single thing you're eating if you don't want to, but at least putting in the protein you're gonna have for that day or your fruit and veggies for that day. You can track things as you go, but I personally have found when I do that, then like you get to the end of your day and you're like, oh shit, I have like 40 grams of protein left and I don't really know what to eat or like how to make that fit. So if you plan it at the start of your day, you can then kind of play around with things. Like, oh, instead of 3 ounces here, I'm gonna have 4 ounces. Or like, oh, I need to have an extra protein bar here. Let me have some more veggies here. So it just kind of helps you really get a hold of the day, see what you need to eat, make sure you're prepared for everything, okay? Keeping like go-to foods on hand. So for me, that's always like lunch meat. Like I'll always keep lunch meat on hand just in case it's like, oh, I need extra protein. I can like make a quick sandwich. Some like easy to go to veggies like green beans or carrots, like things that don't even need to be cooked. Like I can just eat them. So like I'll keep those on hand. Yogurt is another one that I typically always have. Protein shakes, protein powder, like different things like that you know you like, you know is going to fit into those categories. It's easy to just store, to have on hand, are really going to be helpful. All right. Do you have questions on like tracking so far this week? And like, did you find things to be challenging with tracking? Did you find it to be easy? Fine. Okay. Yeah. Also, when it comes to tracking, I'm a big fan of tracking it, like weigh the food the way you're going to eat it. Or at least then put it into the app the way you weighed it. Right? Like using meat for an example, if you weigh out 4 ounces of like uncooked ground beef, we'll just say, then you cook those 4 ounces, it's gonna shrink down, right? So it's gonna end up being closer to like 2.5, 3 ounces once it's cooked. So if you do weigh it as 4 ounces raw, just make sure when you put it into your app and you're tracking it, put in 4 ounces raw, because then that will take into account that it's gonna lose some of that. Same thing like with your veggies, right? I always weigh my veggies after I cook them, or same thing, if I do weigh them before, I just kind of, you know, if it's like 150, I'll put in like 120 or 130, just to kind of, you know, accommodate for it cooking down a little bit. All right.
For the water, what other liquids count, and would you track the water or use an app for that?
So you can eat, like MyFitnessPal has a specific section for water, so you can use that to track. I also sometimes, I know it's like silly, but like the one water bottle I have, I know I personally need to drink 4 of those a day to get my water goal. And so a lot of times I'll just put like a piece of tape on, like I'll put 4 pieces of tape on it and then take a piece off after. So like I just know how many I have left. Other liquids that count, I should double check with Dennis, but I want to say last year we did allow like 1 cup of coffee, so like 8 to 10 ounces of coffee was allowed to count for it. If you do like an amino acid drink, or if you do like electrolytes or something like that, like mixed into your water, that'll definitely still count for it. A seltzer water, that'll count towards it. I would have to double check. I can't remember last year if we allowed any like pops or sodas or things like that. I want to say we did, but to a limit. Like you could only have a certain amount of those things count towards it. The goal is to try and be getting towards as much actual water as we can be, right? But there are a couple other things that will count towards that. Okay. Same thing with like fruits and veggies. I know someone earlier was asking me about potatoes. Potatoes do count. You can have up to like half of your amount be potatoes. So like we just don't want anyone eating like 800 grams of like only potatoes, right? Like try and get some variety in there. But potatoes count, so potatoes. French fries, not necessarily, but like a baked potato, you know, anything like that would count.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at you like you're stupid.
No, that's okay.
I didn't know potato was a vegetable.
Oh, yeah.
So potatoes and sweet potatoes, anything else that I might not know?
Avocados.
Avocado
That would
counts.
be a fat, wouldn't it?
It is a fat, but it's still, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Olives are a fruit.
See, I always thought of all that as a fat.
Yes, in terms of like, if we were tracking macros, right? We were tracking your like protein, fat, carbs, an avocado would absolutely be fat. But it still is
But for
in that
this case,
category.
it don't count.
Mm-hmm.
What about
That gives me more to eat.
Yeah.
edamame? Is that a vegetable or not?
That's a protein, isn't it?
Correct on both fronts. So that would fit into both of those categories, right? Like
It's
you
a
would
lot
still
of
get,
protein,
yeah,
too.
you would still get protein for it, and then you can still use that weight for your vegetables.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, see, I didn't weigh it as a vegetable, I only use it as a protein.
Which is also fine if you're like, and if it's more like if you're struggling to really get there, you can let it count for both. But if you're like, I have my veggies down, I like that to be a protein. And for people like vegetarians, they're gonna need a little bit more variety like that to really hit that protein goal. So that will count for both. I know Wegmans has like an edamame pasta, so it's always a nice way to throw in a little bit like protein, then add some veggies to it. And it'll help really get you there.
Yeah, I actually am finding it easier to eat than it was before, because I used to do like more like ingredients, and now it's like, well, I know I should have a lean meat and I should have my vegetable, and there you go.
Just keep it simple.
It's so
Yeah,
much
that's great.
easier.
Yes,
So
good.
much easier.
And that's really the goal of what Dennis and I want to do. So last year was the first year we did like this kind of format for the challenge, instead of doing like, it has to be keto or it has to be paleo or it has to, right? We were really trying to get people to just implement habits that you can then take with you. Right? There is nothing off limits. You can have pizza and wings, you can drink beer, you can have tacos, ice, like whatever it is you want to have in your day, have it. Just still make sure you're hitting these things, right? And the thought is, if you're eating close to 800 grams of fruit and vegetables, if you're eating all the protein you're supposed to be having, like everyone's over 100, ounces for the protein, or grams for the protein. If you're getting those things in, yes, you might still want ice cream for dessert, which is totally fine. You just might not eat as much of it as you would before, right? And so we're just trying to add in good things and good habits, not take anything away. And I did put this little chart, if you're watching online, you want to zoom into this, or I could post a picture of it. But just if you're ever out to eat, which, still go out to eat, live your life, not saying don't go out for 8 weeks, but this is just like a quick little guide of like being able to use your hand to just kind of estimate portion sizes, right? Like your fist is equal to about a cup of like rice, beans. The palm of your hand is usually like a 3-ounce serving, typically like chicken, but really any meat. Your top little fingertip is a teaspoon. Your thumb is 2 tablespoons. A cupped hand is about 1 ounce. Your whole index finger is also 1 ounce, and then just the front of your knuckles is about 1/2 cup. Okay, so just like a quick little way, like if you're out, just a nice little guide to kind of estimate where you're at. And I have found the more you weigh things out and track things, get an idea, the easier it is when you go out to kind of just like eyeball something and be like, oh, that seems about 4 ounces or 6 ounces.
Now, beans, rice, legumes, all that kind of stuff, where would that fall, or just wouldn't count? Or like beans?
So there's also protein in there, right? So we could use that towards some of the protein.
Do you want a certain amount of protein in it for it to be valuable enough to be eating?
Not necessarily, because this is why using the app would be helpful, because it's gonna catch all of the protein, like even a little bit, and it's gonna get you to, right? If something has 3 grams of protein in there, yeah, it's still getting you towards that goal. I would say, I would still count legumes as a veggie, right? I don't want you eating only beans as your main source of veggie, but we can definitely count those towards it. Help get variety in there as well, I often struggle personally with variety. I am a big fan of like, oh, this is just like what I eat every day and I eat the same things. And so I find that to be easy of just like, this is what I keep on hand. It makes my grocery shopping really easy. Like I tend to just buy the same things, but I know a lot of people struggle with that and they like variety. So yeah, being able to add in all fruits, vegetables, anything that's, produce in there, add it in. Frozen veggies are a really good go-to, right? Like don't think it has to be organic, it has to be fresh, it has to, like, frozen is great. And like it's nice to buy like a bunch of those bags at once, keep them in the freezer, just microwave them, have them on hand. So those are a really good go-to.
I guess I was just trying to stay away from things like rice and couscous and stuff that I felt like was less valuable than fruits, veggies, protein.
Yeah, so like rice, we're not gonna count that towards fruit and veggie. We won't count those. Because there's not really protein in that either. So, but you can definitely add that to your meals to just overall make your meal feel more filling and just have more calories overall in the meal. Yeah, don't avoid rice, it's good. Carbs are still good. But I get it if you're like, no, I just want more room for like veggies, What other questions?
For the apps, so it seems like the free versions do most of what you need.
Yes.
Do you know anything about what benefits you might get from paying for them?
So I know, for MyFitnessPal, that's the only one I know of for the paid version. If you pay just certain things, like you can make your macros specific by number. The free one, it only goes up by like 5%. So like you'd only be able to put in like certain percents of it, whereas the paid version, you can put in exactly 142 grams, The other thing with the paid one is you can put in specific meal times, whereas I don't think the free version has times. So I could put like breakfast was at this time, and then I have this snack at this time.
I find the free version, I've used it for like 10 years, and
yeah, I want to say there's not much of a difference. I was trying to think if there was something else. Yeah, I did the paid one for MyFitnessPal just to see what do you get with it, and I want to say it's really just that. I know it's the times and the specific macro like number you can put in. But I think really for like the challenge that we're doing, the free one's totally fine. It still has the water in there. If you are using the app, or if anyone's using one of those apps, if you put, I know for MyFitnessPal, if you put exercise into the app, it'll then tell you to eat more calories. You don't have to do that. Don't like stress about that. You don't have to put your exercise into the app. You can if you want to, but if it then tells you to eat more food, you don't need to. Don't stress about that. Like your BIA takes into account that you do exercise, so all of those numbers that you got for that is based on you exercising. Yeah. But the first week tracking felt pretty easy, went pretty smooth.
Yeah,
Water gets annoying.
Yes.
I normally drink like
I feel
80
you
ounces.
a lot. Yeah.
Well, the bathroom part wasn't too bad. I was just always having it with me.
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm off this week, so it's a different.
Okay,
schedule,
yeah.
So I wasn't like at best.
What do you have to drink for your water?
117.
Okay, that's not too
And
bad.
I normally do 80.
Okay.
So I feel like 100 would have been fine, but that
17 really pushed you over.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't counting coffee. I only drink water and coffee.
And I would
wasn't
say,
counting coffee.
right, so like, in terms of like counting coffee or maybe some of these other beverages, to me that is how far are you from where your water goal is, right? Like 80 is not that crazy to 117, right? So if you're getting to 80 pretty easily, getting to 117, I think you can still do that with just water, right? Say your goal was 117 and you're like, I struggle to get 50 ounces in. That's what's like, all right, let's count that 1 cup of coffee, let's count more liquids that we're taking in and just kind of try to get your overall liquid intake up, and then we can get more specific to like, hey, okay, let's make some of that more just water, regular drinks, things like that. Yeah. And I find, so with getting more water in, I try to give myself like time stamps. And we'll do, like in 2 weeks, we'll talk more about like hydration and all of that. But I like to give myself like windows. So like, depending on what time I wake up, it's like, okay, I wanna get 20 ounces in before 10 a.m. And then, I normally coach like the noon class, so okay, I wanna get another 20 to 30 in before noon class is over. And then I'll always drink one like while I'm training, and then like, okay, try to finish another one before you go home. Like I just try to give myself like time windows to get a bottle in, and that seems to make it a little bit easier and not be like, oh shit, I haven't drank water in 2 hours, like let me chug some, Try and space it out throughout the day.
I have a question that's more nutrition than the challenge itself.
Okay.
Like, the whole concept of like the net carbs, is that really just for keto, or is there anything that makes those like the sugar alcohols not really count?
Yeah, so like overall when you're tracking, just track total carbs. So the net carbs, it's gonna take out any fiber, right? Because like the fiber is gonna kind of like cancel out some of those carbs. What's gonna end up happening though, if you only track your net carbs, you're gonna end up eating more carbs. Because it's gonna tell you that you haven't ate as much, and it's taking out a lot of that fiber that you've been eating along with it. So then you'll end up eating more. So overall, I would just track total carbs.
Okay.
Don't worry about the net carbs. That might also be a difference in the pain-free version. I want to say in the free version, it doesn't give you an option of doing that, and then the paid one, you could have the option of net or total
Well,
carbs.
I have Chronometer, and that is.
Oh, is an option on there? Yeah, I would just do total.
Okay.
Because also fiber is good. We do want to eat fiber. It is good for us. Anything else? Feeling good so far. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to touch on for you guys and anyone watching the video. So, great, all the sheets are at the front desk. I'm gonna get a folder to put them all in to help keep them organized. Mark off everything you do every day. I will tally up the points at the end of each week, so do not stress about adding your points. You're also going to get points week to week for being consistent, even just being consistent in each individual thing that you do. Right, so last year you only got consistency points if you did all of the things every week. This year I really want to focus on, hey, maybe you can't hit every single thing, but can we hit some of the things? And so I still want everyone to feel like they're being rewarded for doing some of the things, right? Implementing some of those habits. So just make sure you're marking everything you do each day, and then I'll do all the points. You don't have to.
And then the week obviously is Monday to Sunday.
Monday to Sunday, yes.
So then Monday, we can then put in for what we did Sunday. Like you're not gonna tally on Sundays, right?
No, I probably won't tell until like Monday or Tuesday, just to give people that day to like, yeah, check it all in. Yep. So yeah, Monday when you come in, you can check off Sundays. Right, remember, all of these things, minus the steps, which again is just an average. It's not like every single day you have to. You can do more steps some of the days. Everything else is 5 times a week. So like say, Monday you're like, oh shit, I just, I didn't get my sleep or I didn't hit my protein goal. That is, okay, so 6 more days to get those things in. Okay, so it's not like these are set 5 days a week. Okay.
Yeah, no, it seems totally doable, I like that.
Good, okay, yeah, good. We've, over the years, have definitely done a lot of different styles of challenge and types of challenges, and we really want to try and make something that is realistic and doable, and then not, and I get it, like, it's a challenge, it's also, supposed to be a little bit hard, but we didn't want it to be where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this to be over so I can go back to eating whatever. We want this to be like, oh, I can keep doing this. I can keep building on these habits. That's our main goal with it. All right. Anything else? Okay, awesome.